What is going on, boys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play Carl. He's a really complicated brawler to use, and he actually takes a lot of skill. So we're going to start with his best build, starting off with his gadget. You're going to want to use Flying Hook. It's so much better than the other one. And for his star power, it just depends on what you're trying to do. Most of the time, people like the 35% reduction on damage when you're in your super. His power throw isn't bad because you can actually get more shots off. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for, but most of the time I would go with the super one. And then with gears, damage, his supercharged one isn't really useful in my opinion. It'd either be damage, the shield gear, or speed, depending on what maps you're in. The one thing about Carl is he's very versatile, so you can play him in pretty much any game mode. I would try to avoid Heist with him. He's not that good in Heist. But other than that, he can be played in pretty much any game mode. He's very versatile. He doesn't really have a game mode where he really stands out or anything. But he can be played pretty much in any one except for Heist. So yeah. The first tip I have with Carl is, especially if you're playing him in like Knockout or a game mode where kills really matter, is to, play normally and get your super and then use that gadget to super combo. I mean, pretty much everyone knows about it. Use your Flying Hook and then you super. It's just really good. There's a lot of brawlers that have stuns now that can kind of stop them from doing that. But if you know your matchups and you can get that right brawler in that 1v1, you're never going to lose that. So, I mean, using that Flying Hook to super, it's just insane. And that's like one of the easiest strategies to do when you're playing Carl, especially in like solo showdown or like knockout or wipeout where kills really matter. That can save you games, like just using those two things. So, yeah. The next thing with Carl I see is people auto aiming a lot. I don't think it's very smart to auto aim. I think it's pretty smart to actually aim his shots because then you can control where you're throwing them to. And obviously, the closer you throw them, to hitting a wall, then it'll come back faster. So you can actually shoot a lot more shots if you aim towards like closer areas like the walls and stuff. So I see a lot of people aiming like and not aiming and actually like trying to hit somebody. I mean, it's not like the worst thing in the world because his auto aim is actually pretty good. But if you aim specifically in a certain area, you can get more shots off. So a lot of people actually don't do that, which can kill them overall. So you want to make sure you're trying to hit a wall like most of the time when you're playing with him. The reason a lot of people actually aren't very good with Carl is because they don't have the patience to play with him. It takes actually some patience to play with him because you can't just go in all the time. You have to know like when the right time to go in is, and like you can't like rush things. You can't just go in straight on 3 brawlers in a knockout game. You gotta have to single one out and go for them and create that 3v2 that I've talked about before in knockout games. You can't just like dive in every time. He's a very patient brawler. You have to play him slow, hit shots, and he does a lot of damage. Like if you actually hit your shots, he does a ton of damage. And I think everyone kind of knows that by now, but his damage is insane. He does like 3,000 damage for a hit. So even though he only has 1 ammo and sometimes it can be hard to hit your shots, he does a lot of damage. And once you get someone low, using that gadget to super combo will finish them off most of the time. The next thing I want to talk about is using Carl in 1v1 situations. When you're playing him, you get in a lot of 1v1 situations, and the one thing I will say is always keep shooting. Always shoot no matter what, especially if they're behind a wall, because a lot of times you can peek them behind a wall, and I'll show examples of this. So if you're facing someone that's behind a wall and like there's a wall in between you, you can shoot, like go off for a second and shoot around the wall and then come back, and the pickaxe on the way back will hit them. I feel like most people know about that. But in like a 1v1 situation or in like a situation in Showdown where you need to get some chip damage on somebody, it's so easy to do, and you'll get it like 9 times out of 10. I mean, a lot of times you may miss them like every now and then, but if you walk out and walk back, you'll hit them most of the time. So it's actually a really good strategy to use to hit somebody. And with Carl, it's all about keeping people low and then using that gadget to super combo. That's how you're going to get most of your kills. Every now and then you'll get a kill just using your basic attack. But like when you're trying to hit somebody in like a 1v1 situation, using that wall peek strat is just insane. So yeah. The last tip I have with Carl is kind of simple. I just say to shoot a lot with him. There's certain brawlers you want to use a lot of ammo with, and certain brawlers you don't want to use hardly any ammo with. Carl is one you want to shoot a lot with because it doesn't really hurt unless you're like in a close quarters like kind of like thing. Otherwise, if you're at a long range, you might as well just throw the pickaxe every time you get it. There's no like hurt to it, but if someone's charging you, you have to be a little more careful. But man, if someone's far away, just keep throwing it over and over and over again. You might as well. Like there's certain brawlers you can do that with, and certain you can't. But Carl's definitely one of them, just because he has that one shot thing. So yeah, that's really all I have for Carl. He's a very hard brawler to learn. It takes a lot of patience and practice, but once you learn him, he's so much fun. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and peace out, homies.